Good morning, I'm Terry Hayes. I want to be your next governor. That's supposed to be an applause line. Thank you very much. I'm an independent clean elections candidate. I'm the only independent clean election funded candidate on the ballot for governor of Maine. How many, I can't see your hands anymore, so never mind, but I'm assuming some of you may actually be eligible to vote a month from today.
Yep.
In which case, my goal is to try to earn your check mark, earn your vote. But this morning, I'm here not so much to talk about me, but to listen to the questions that you folks have. Some will come from your peers here, and others will come from the audience. I'll tell you very briefly. I grew up in Greater Portland. I've lived in Buckfield and Oxford County for the last 30 years. That's where we decided to raise our kids. And I served in the legislature. I'm currently Maine's first independent state treasurer. Do you know how the state treasurer is chosen? Anybody? No, we're elected by the legislature. So there's 186 people that get to vote on that, on the treasurer, the secretary of state, and the attorney general every 2 years. In 2014, they elected me the first independent ever in Maine's history. Up until that point, the party with the most votes had always elected one of their own. So I'm able to work. I tell you that story because they not only elected me in 2014, but they re-elected me in 2016, again, when they could have elected one of their own. And I offer that as evidence that I have a good working relationship with folks at both ends of the political spectrum, and I'm looking for an opportunity to lead Maine as your governor with that type of respect and inclusivity.
First question. You've mentioned that you would like to connect job seekers with education. How do you plan on reaching these workers and persuading them to pay for schooling that may not end with a job?
Well, actually, that's a great question, but at this point in time, almost any education you choose here in Maine will lead you to a job. You've probably heard the headlines that we have a very low unemployment rate. Unemployment rate's hovering around 3%, 2.7%. And lots of people tout that as good news. I don't consider it particularly good news because it basically means we're at full employment. So there are thousands of openings right now, and our challenge is to provide the workers that have the skill set that those employers need. And what's fascinating for me, because I've been around here a little bit longer than most of you, we've told ourselves an entirely different story in the past. We've talked about you not being able to have a career in Maine. You could get a good education here, but you had to leave in order to get some experience, and then maybe we let you come back, right? That has flipped on its head. It's clear to me right now that in many professions, you can actually have a career in Maine and choose to stay here and raise your families here if you wish. So there are efforts in the private sector underway to try to make those connections better, more often and earlier. And as your next governor, I want to help folks do that.
Going off your internship point, you mentioned that you'd like to keep Maine college students in Maine by granting them careers through prominent businesses like WEX and IDEX. How do you plan to get these businesses to oblige when it's possible that they could find more experienced workers or better educated workers?
So the skill sets that you offer wherever you go from here after your graduation, whether you go on to tech school, whether you take a year off or a couple years off, whether you go to the university system or to a private college, I would suggest to you that the skills and what you're learning will have a place here, but I'm not suggesting that you go with a particular aim. I think you have to figure out what fits for you, okay? But you're going to have to compete globally no matter where you look to be employed, whether it's in Maine or New York or California or someplace abroad. Now, don't sell yourself short. You guys can be in this game and compete really well. It's a question of what decisions you make at this point and what you choose to do as you move forward.
You speak about promoting Maine's brand. How do you plan to do this? And if it will cost money, do you plan on raising taxes for this cost?
So when we say the Maine brand, it already brings up a number of things for you folks, and you all live here. What I find fascinating is, I think we need to lead with what we love. What we love. And I won't be able to see your hands, but when I speak to a room full of adults, I often ask them, if you were not born here, please raise your hand. Because those folks came here at some point. Now, they might have been brought by their parents. I saw a hand or two. But I want to know why they came. What was it about Maine that brought them here? It probably wasn't the governor. And I'm not just talking about the current governor. That probably wasn't the motivation. It's about what we love about being from Maine and leading with that. If we take 0.05% of those visitors and convince them to stay, instead of just play here, let's stay here, we solve our workforce challenge. And still have room for all of you folks to join our economy when you're ready, okay? So I think we're already investing sufficient money, our brand is well known, we're attracting people, now we need them to do something more than just visit, okay?
Right. What specific benefits will the improvement of broadband internet have? And if it will mostly help local businesses, will they financially support this cause, or will it be left to taxpayers?
I expect that we're going to solve our need for broadband infrastructure in a collaborative way. It won't be just left for taxpayers, but there's some considerable funds that have been committed at the federal level that Maine needs to compete for among our other states. So we have to go after federal money. The state taxpayers are going to have an investment in this infrastructure. That's my expectation. I see this as a public-private partnership, state, federal, local tax dollars in some instances, and then an opportunity for the industry to participate as well. So this is something that we need. This is our infrastructure of today's economy, not just tomorrow's. And if we're going to be able to compete globally and get folks to come here and stay, we have to have that connectivity.
We now have a question from the audience. What is your position on assault weapons? Have you changed your position since the beginning of your campaign?
I'm relatively ignorant about assault weapons. I'm not even sure if I had to define that term, if I could do it competently. I fully expect that there's an entirely different perspective on your part, because what's different between your experience and mine, as I went through public school, there were no incidents like you folks have known the entire time that you've been in school. And so I'm really at a loss when it comes to what changes we should make to our firearms policies in the state of Maine. I've been in a variety of meetings where we've talked about everything from, well, what I describe as turning our schools into prisons. I mean, in terms of security measures, as well as, having no restrictions whatsoever. And I think if we have candid and passionate conversations with each other that involves different age groups and different experiences with firearms, we can find a way that we can both honor the Second Amendment and keep you all safe when you're in our care during your school day.
How do you actually plan to make college more affordable, and where will this money come from?
How will I make college more affordable? Let's start with the easy stuff. Right now, and I only know this for Maine, I haven't looked at this in a national context, so I'm not necessarily sure where you intend to go to school, but we have a growing number of students who are transitioning from high school to college who need remediation in at least one content area. And currently we're providing that remediation at the college or the university. That is the most expensive environment to do remediation to school. So I want to stop that because that pads the debt in a significant way. The second thing, when you borrow money as a student, it's the institution that's typically guiding you in terms of, they give you a financial aid package. Some of that's probably work study, some of it's going to be maybe a grant, some of it may be a loan. When you're signing with loan documents, in most instances, the lion's share of the money that you borrow is going to that institution. I think every institution should have to provide you with a disclosure of what the end game looks like, okay? I think you need to be making informed decisions. And I think it's the institutions that benefit, this is where the money goes, okay? That they should be helping you see what that path looks like so that you're not surprised when you get to the end. I have limited enthusiasm for debt forgiveness, but in large part because I think we should make informed decisions and we should be responsible for the decisions that we make. It doesn't mean I won't entertain better ideas if I see them, but I haven't seen all of them yet.
Maine's public schools currently rank towards the bottom of 50 states. How do we improve that ranking?
I guess I didn't know that. We rank poorly in terms of our own self-testing, meaning proficiency at the 4th grade level and the 8th grade level in reading and in math. We're lagging behind, just below 40% proficiency in those two areas, which I think is problematic. We have not, across the board, raised entry-level teachers' pay in the state of Maine since 2005. Right now, in any community in the state of Maine, if you are a starting teacher and you have a spouse and 2 children, you will qualify for every form of public assistance that we offer. But we have eroded the instructional time in the school day. And I think we have to focus on keeping that time. What's the core mission of school? Teaching and learning. So we need to focus the time that you're here on those tasks and hold that sacred, if you will, and fit the other pieces around it.
How do you plan to strengthen scientific research and development projects in Maine?
So we've put some good public money in facilities that help support R&D. And now what's happening is the private sector is leasing those facilities and paying for the data that we're generating so that it's continuing to do that in the broadest sense, I think, is government's role, but the actual applications will come from individual industries.
There's another one from the audience. How do you feel about the legalization of recreational marijuana?
Okay. Can I change the question a little bit?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. We have an interesting history with citizen-initiated petitions, and this was an example of one. And I would change the petition process. I think we've had a lot of angst around the marijuana cannabis question because the advocates wrote the law. That's the way the program, that's the way our Constitution works right now. If you want to put a question on the ballot, the advocates for that question write the law. And it's the only way you can take an idea in Maine and have it become a law without it ever being amended. And I don't think that works very well for us. I would suggest that we look at changing our Constitution so that if the advocates want to put the question on the ballot and the question passes, and I'll use the marijuana question as an example, do you favor adult recreational use of marijuana, yes or no? If folks vote yes, then the legislature writes the law, instead of having the advocates who put the question on the ballot write the law. I would suggest that that would be a better approach for getting feedback and direction from the voters and letting those folks whom we elect to make the laws actually do that part.
All right, last question. What are your ideas or plans for improving mental health care?
So community-based mental health is essential. We've underfunded access, and it's created some real challenges for people who have substance use issues, for people who have that brain disease of addiction. Because when they reach out for help, we put them on hold. Because we lack the infrastructure that we need and access. And I think that it should be ready on demand. I really believe that. And this is something that we are all going to invest in. And if we were to raise taxes for anything, this would be at the top of my list. I'm thinking we can probably get there simply by being more conscious of what we're doing with our money already. But I won't back down from raising taxes to put that kind of a network in place because all of us are going to need pieces of it at some point in time. Just like you'll all need a doctor or you'll all need a dentist. You know, the mental health, it's all connected. So I think we've undervalued it and we've had a stigma and judgment that comes with the need for mental health assistance. And we got to turn that on its head by talking about it more often, just like you would a sprained ankle or a broken arm.